So how many rewrites did you have on the go there, Lockie?
Look, I was feeling pretty comfortable with about 5 overs to go, but boy, Fabian Allen, where can I send that invoice for overtime? Because I thought I was going to have to do a big rewrite there.
Yeah, it was a little bit nail biting, but that's okay. And you're much quicker than I am because you've already filed. I'll make sure I put the link out soon. But in the meantime, let's get on with the show. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Timed Out after the fourth match of the series between West Indies and Australia, and Australia have won by the skin of their teeth, it seemed as well. It was an exciting match in the end, and look, you've finally got a different result to talk about, so that's good.
Yeah, finally. Again, almost thought we weren't going to have a different result to talk about, but I think no matter what, you look at that game, that was a fantastic game of T20 cricket. For an Australian fan, even for a West Indies fan, I thought there was a lot to like. And as a neutral, perfect sort of game of T20 cricket, everything right into the balance until the last couple of balls. So, yeah, a fantastic match, and we've got plenty to discuss today.
We do, and I always, of course, am the neutral in all things cricket. Just want to point that out there. Okay, now don't forget, if you are joining us live and you do have any comments or you want to say hi or some questions, please pop them in the chat because we'd love to hear from you, and hit a like and a subscribe if you can as well. We'd really appreciate that. In the meantime, let's get into it with our first timed out topic of the day. And it is the MARSH-FINCH partnership. Now out of everyone on this tour so far, clearly Mitch Marsh has been the standout with bat and with ball. He missed out in the third match, but followed up, back-to-back 50s in the first two with what I thought was a sensational batting performance today. He made it look so easy. He was so calm and so still. We've been talking about the lack of six hitting. Well, he pretty much changed that today, and I really think that he took some pressure off Aaron Finch after Matthew Wade went early, and Finch sort of didn't look as comfortable. But then he seemed to sort of grow into his own innings a bit more. First half century of the series for him, and just having the security of a player like Mitch Marsh in that kind of form at the other end, I really think just made it a little bit easier for Finch. I mean, in the end, that was absolutely the partnership that did it for Australia. So long since, or certainly not in this tour, that we have seen that, while others have been struggling to actually make a statement and put their hand up. Mitch Marsh showing at number 3. We spoke to him after the match. He doesn't want to talk about being at number 3, but I think he's shown that he absolutely can fill that role if Australia needed. If Steve Smith ends up not playing the T20 World Cup, I think Mitch Marsh has shown that he can do that job if Australia need him to do it. And for mine, I would book his ticket to the UAE now.
Perfect timing. There you go. I have to agree with pretty much a lot of what you said there, because Mitch Marsh has been the absolute standout as we've seen across these first 4 matches. I really like the point that you brought up about how he kind of allowed Finch to build his innings a bit more. By Marsh coming in at number 3 and kind of being that aggressor a little bit early in his innings, it meant Finch could work into his innings, because he was finding it very difficult to find the middle of his bat there for the most part, Aaron Finch, but eventually he got himself going. I mean, it's incredible to think that we're in game 4 and only in this match has he hit a 6 for the series. Like, he hasn't hit a 6 in the first 3 matches of the series, which is what Finchy is known for. So it was good to see him in the runs and get a half century. But yeah, Marsh is the main one that you've got to look at. Some stats on that partnership. The 114-run partnership is Australia's 10th best in the history of T20 cricket, and Australia's best ever partnership in T20s in the West Indies. So, yeah, fantastic to see there. It was a really important partnership, and kind of goes to show that they've been talking a lot post-match from the previous 3 matches about we need players to stay together and go on with it, and that's what the 2 of them did today. They put them in a really good position. Marsh, 75, his best ever T20 international score, was fantastic to see. Clearing the rope for fun. I think something like 7 sixes for the innings, which was more than the first and third match that Australia had combined. So it was quite remarkable, really, when you consider just how well he was striking the ball so early in his innings. And we've seen 2 sides of Marsh now. He can bat hard quickly, but he can also take his time, which is good to see.
Gets me every time. 75 off 44 for Mitch Marsh, 53 off 37 for Aaron Finch. Just what the doctor ordered for Australia. And our next timed out topic for the day, Australian middle order exposed again. Yes, after that great partnership. Well, it was the question of, could Australia stop another collapse from happening? Well, it wasn't as bad as the first ones, but I think Alex Carey and Moses Henriques will be incredibly disappointed with the way that they got out, as well as the fact that they haven't made the most of the opportunities that they've been given in the middle orders. And we're going to talk about Hayden Walsh Jr. a little bit more earlier, but the West Indies, the way they've been able to slow Australia in the middle orders, and interestingly enough, Mitch Marsh spoke about what West Indies have been able to do to make it hard, I think, for the batters, particularly in the middle overs, is that they close off one area. There's a massive crosswind that goes through the Darren Sammy Stadium, and they were able to, by bowling wide Yorkers defensively, they were able to really cut off one area. And they'd see the West Indies do that in the first sort of couple of innings. They didn't themselves, but again, they were unable to negate that themselves for the middle orders, and be able to just, get scoring and just stay out there a bit and offer Mitch Marsh that support that he needs. We're still not seeing the others in there. Dan Christian did come in with a cameo, much needed. Nice to see him come at the end. Not quite the finishing status that I think Australia need, though. Yes.
No, I tend to agree. I thought Christian, while his runs were very much needed there, that 22 off 16, there was 1 6 off Fabian Allen, which was a complete full toss, which if he didn't hit over out of the stadium, he would have been concerned because it was a rubbish delivery from Allen. So it was a good innings from Dan Christian, but again, I don't think personally he'd be happy with it. He would have wanted a bit more as well. So I think we'll see a bit more from him as the series progresses. But yeah, looking at those 3 other guys in the middle order, I want to start with mainly Alex Carey. I think his role in particular is seriously under question now because he's not got the gloves on. Matt Wade's preferred there. Josh Philippe is arguably preferred with the gloves as well. You've also got someone like Josh Inglis, who has been impressing over in the T20 Blast over in the UK. So he has been fantastic and could more than fill a role in the Australian side if he was needed to be called up. So while I have no doubt of Alex Carey's skill as a limited overs player, mainly in 50-over cricket, these 2 chances that he's kind of blown in T20 cricket is really concerning for his place in the side, for someone who is kind of expected to be the next wicketkeeper for Australia, but has never quite lived up to that role. Ashton Turner is another one who this tour was a perfect opportunity for him to make the most of his chances, but again, just failed to do that. I think 6 off 10 or so balls. So many other players. You've got Maxwell, you've got Stoinis, you've got Steve Smith as well to come back in the side. I don't see how he keeps his place ahead of the World Cup.
Oh, big call there, big call. So we've got Mitch Marshy and Alex Carey out so far, it seems. Still, of course, a few more games to play before we get to squad selection time. And a couple of comments coming in. Akul Mishra says, Starkey killed it. That was an amazing to see him come back. We spoke before about the rhythm that he wanted to find. And it's certainly he's improved massively and looks far more in rhythm at bowling those Yorkers in particular than he did in the first 2 matches in these last 2 outings. That last over, I mean, so much pressure there. I'm sure that there will be people who will criticise Andre Russell for keeping the strike and not them being able to close it out. It had gone the other way. If Andre Russell had, taken a single and then it hadn't worked out, he would have been blasted a lot more than by taking responsibility himself. Those things, they either work or they don't. But you probably expect your senior players to stand up. But Stark, the Yorkers were employed, I thought, really well. Occasionally, they might have strayed, but I thought that was a really good performance from him. That first Yorker he bowled that tripped Andre Russell up, that was just a perfect fit, what he needed at that time. And so, it's very good to see him bowling fast, but also just having a bit more control over those Yorkers as well.
Definitely. I mean, I guess him and Meredith were both given really tough tasks in those last 2 overs. Obviously, Meredith, we'll talk about that a little bit later. But Starkey himself,
you can talk about it now.
Stark's figures going into that final over were none for 33 off 3 overs. So he was going for 11 and over. That's all the West Indies needed. So for him to come out and produce an over that only went for 4 is pretty remarkable. And yes, you can, as you said, we can talk about Dre Russ and what he kind of did and didn't do in that over. But at the end of the day, you've got to execute. And that's exactly what Stark did. And that's why he's such an important bowler for this Australian side.
Yeah, that was good to see him coming back. Another comment there from Swami NYC. I'm assuming that means you're in New York, Swami NYC.
Lucky.
If you are, wow, nice of you to join us. How good was Zampa today? Yeah, he was really good. And you're almost introducing our next topic.
Yes.
But yes, he was. And actually, I think, Swami NYC, you have brought on the perfect time for us to bring up our next timed out topic, which is
a good day to be a leg spinner.
It was a good day to be a leg spinner. I'll let you go first, Lockie.
All right, I'll go first. Zampa, I was very impressed with. I thought he's gone wicketless throughout the first 3 matches of this tour. So there's no doubting what a class bowler he is in the T20 format, but he's always at his best when he takes wickets, because otherwise he can prove to be a bit expensive, as he has been this tour. But what we saw today was he clearly went away, had a bit of a look at his game, and I thought he must have had a look at a bit at how Hayden Walsh had success in this series, because he kind of dropped his length back a little bit at various stages and put a bit more variation in with his pace, and it kind of brought a lot of the West Indies batsmen unstuck. But I was really impressed with his 2 wickets, kind of dropping that ball back a little bit and just forcing the West Indies players onto their back foot, quicker pace, rush through, and essentially 2 bowled, which was fantastic to see. But the stat that I loved the most about Zampa's bowling performance was his 13 dot balls. Mitch Marsh also had 13 dot balls, so it was impressive to see how the pair of them combined to really slow down that West Indies innings and really put the brakes on, because you think now the Aussies only won by 4 runs. 1 or 2 of those dot balls goes for a boundary, and we're talking about a completely different result here. So the pair of them were fantastic, and it's hard not to talk about Hayden Walsh. She's been probably the standout bowler of this tour so far. Another 3 wickets today, and again, the Aussies just seem to be having difficulties playing against him. I mean, we can talk about whether the Aussies should have had an off-spinner on this tour, but good to see Adam Zampa finally having the success he deserves.
I'm just letting that run full course.
Yes.
It's hard to talk about Adam Zampa without talking about Mitch Marsh, because I think the 2 of them bowled so well together in that middle over. When you saw, as I was talking about those wide defensive Yorkers from Marsh, just as frustrating them, preventing the batters from getting away, and Zampa slowing things down. I thought actually it was a bit with the shot that Simmons played, where he just kind of stood, he gave himself room, but then just poked at the ball to see it clatter onto the stumps. Was kind of an odd dismissal in the end, but it's been probably a relief for Zampa to actually get those couple of wickets. I don't think he's bowled particularly badly all tour, and he definitely remains Australia's first choice spinner, I think, in this format as a spinner who's able to be attacking. But I think we saw also very much today the defensive side of Adam Zampa, which I thought was really impressive as well. And Hayden Walsh Jr., I mean, West Indies have just had so much to talk about in that bowling attack when it comes to pace. But he has just added, I feel like, another dimension totally to the West Indies bowling unit. And they've stuck with him. They've really invested in Walsh Jr. And I think we're really, really seeing the dividends now. So we expected spin to play a part on these slower wickets. But to see the leggies do it, well, we all love it when leggies do it, don't we? Isn't that the best?
I agree. I definitely agree.
And just bringing up on that note, Mohammed Zubair, at comment there, thanks for joining us, Mohammed. Pakistan have always won T20 internationals in the UAE with good spinners in the team. Australia need another spinner with Zampa for the World Cup. Yes, you are right. In fact, they probably need another 2, you could imagine, on that tour. So interesting to see, him just playing there tonight. Other spinners are the likes of Ashton Agar, Mitchell Swepson are getting their chance here. But Well, we'll have to see what the next couple of pitches show up and if they play another spinner, because yes, Mohammed, I agree with you. Do you, Lockie? Mohammed's right.
I do. He really is. And the thing I want to see Mitch Swepson play in the next T20. I think he needs a chance, and whether it's bowling in with Zampa or in another combination, I just think we need to see him again, because it's the perfect chance to kind of go, let's see what he's got in T20 cricket, because we saw in those T20s against India towards the end of last year, especially that one down in Canberra where he kind of got rushed into the side. He has what it takes to bowl in the format. I mean, from memory, he got the wicket of Virat Kohli. So he's a very good T20 bowler when he needs to be. The other one for me, I think, is going to be massive, is Glenn Maxwell is going to be bowling a lot of overs in this World Cup, I think, with his off spin. I mean, we kind of talked about this in the last show, but Australia don't really have an off spinning option right now in T20 cricket for those left-handers, unless they're set to turn back to Nathan Lyon. But I think from the makeup of some of these recent limited over squads, they've kind of gone, all right, it's time for Lyon to just focus on red ball cricket, even though he played some matches in the 2019 World Cup. So I think Glenn Maxwell is going to have a huge role to play, and whether they pick two spinners, two fast quicks and Maxwell, or whether it's going to be one spinner, Maxwell, and three quicks, it's going to be a really interesting balance to see what they choose for that World Cup later this year.
It absolutely is. All right, time for our final timed out topic of the day, West Indies finishing power. Now, we've spoken so much has been made of Australia looking for a finisher. And as I said last time, I feel like they're really just looking for a team at the moment and an ideal squad. So I think we saw exactly, though, what they've been talking about with West Indies. Okay, they didn't get there, but they have so many batters who can take on that role in that middle order that the finishing power of Andre Russell is just unreal, really. It's astonishing. And he came so close to getting them there. And I think that just shows the contrast in the team and what we're talking about with Dan Christian. That was a really handy cameo. And don't forget, he doesn't score those 20-odd runs. Australia don't have a total that they can defend in the end. So, but what we've seen is Australia, again, because what they have won is tosses. Aaron Finch is going great guns on the tosses. They weren't able to do it when they were chasing themselves. And so that's what we're still yet to see from Australia, is anyone who can come in and really play those big innings and those big shots towards the end of an innings. You just know, like that, even in that last over against Stark, you know that he's going to go. You know that there's almost a calmness about it. And the way they took apart poor little Riley Meredith in the previous over. I mean, there's a fine margin when you're going for Yorkers, and when you end up bowling full tosses, the finishers are going to finish you.
I feel like Australia have struggled with bowling those death overs for however long in T20 cricket now. I mean, in T20 cricket era, I think of someone like a James Faulkner or someone as the last real strong bowler that Australia had at the death, because all our other options just seem to get pummeled around the park. It's quite remarkable, really. But I mean, looking at that West Indies lineup, Fabian Allen, that was incredible hitting. I mean, it wasn't all in the one spot either. I thought it was quite remarkable to just see, like, some were going over long off, some were going over point. It was it was incredible. And there was really not much that Riley Meredith could do. I mean, sure, I think the occasion maybe got to him a little bit. He wasn't bowling at his best. He was missing his mark with those Yorkers and just bowling it into a good slot. But the batter has still got to be good enough to hit it and clear the rope. And Fabian Allen did it 3 consecutive times, which was quite remarkable to see, really. I think that Australia's bowling plan again kind of let them down, that they kind of realised, oh, hang on a sec, now we've got 2 overs left. We're left with Stark and Meredith. I think the benefit of having that 7-4 balance with a few more all-rounders thrown in is that you want to give yourself more options there, essentially. You want to be able to say, okay, I can choose from 3, 4, maybe even 5 bowlers to bowl these last 2 overs. I mean, Dan Christian kind of got carted around the park a bit at the start, but again, we didn't see much of him. And same with Moses Enriquez. He said that he wants more of the ball this series, but we just haven't seen him. So whether it's a captaincy thing or whether it's a plan before the game, I think something needs to change there.
Yeah, you're right. Dan Christian, of course, going 23 off the only over he bowled. So there's a little issue with that, and I can hear your dog Charlie going off about that in the background as well. Charlie,
she doesn't.
Charlie's not happy.
She's on the Christian train. Don't worry.
Well, there you go. Just one more comment coming in there. I can see that from Tommy and saying that it's struggled for Punjab Kings too in the IPL, although the bigger UAE grounds he'd be much more difficult to get away. Good point there. We'll see whether he's going to get to the UAE. I think there's a lot more to be decided about Australia's bowling lineup. I thought Berendorf actually did pretty well when he came in as well. I thought bearing in mind the situation, he was pretty tight. So, and again, the Yorkers were good. So there's still plenty to try and figure out about this Australian side. We'll be back again for the 5th. We've got one more in this series to just see what Australia and the West Indies will come up with, who they'll play, what tactics they'll go for. So please make sure you join us. Thank you so much to everyone who has joined us today and for your comments and questions. We really, really appreciate it. You can be back and join us again next time. Same place, same bat channel, all of that here on Sporting News Australia on the YouTube channel. Give us a like, do share, please, and do subscribe. And we'll be back later for another round of T20. Until next time, bye-bye.